Okay, here's a question to start us off. What happens when, you know, the drive for efficiency slams right into the privacy of federal employees?
That's a big one.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into something pretty complex and still unfolding. It involves the Office of Personnel Management, OPM.
Which is basically the HR department for the entire U.S. federal government.
Huge.
Y-
Exactly. And honestly, the story sounds like it's ripped from some kind of cybersecurity thriller, but it's real. And the fallout could be massive, for government workers and maybe even beyond.
It's a fascinating situation because you've got all these different threads kind of weaving together. You have political appointments, really fast tech decisions being made, and then independent groups scrutinizing everything.
Right.
And it paints this larger picture of potential weaknesses in, well, pretty critical government systems.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're drawing on a whole mix of things. We've looked at analyses from security experts, legal takes, but also, crucially, we have direct accounts, people who were actually involved in uncovering what was going on.
Yeah, that's key.
Specifically, we lean heavily on insights from someone called Surge, who's part of the group Anonymore. They've apparently been pretty central in bringing a lot of this stuff out into the open.
Hmm.
So the core mystery here involves some big names: Donald Trump, Elon Musk, this kind of shadowy initiative called DOUG,
Right.
and then, sort of unexpectedly, the critical role played by a group like Anonymous. So our goal today is to try and figure out how federal data might have been put at risk, why that's such a big deal, and who's actually shining a light on all this.
And it really kicks off with this big push for government efficiency, which, I mean, on the surface, who argues with that, right?
Sure, sounds good.
Our sources suggest that when Trump came into office, he brought in Elon Musk,
Well,
gave him this mandate to sort of oversee government operations, look for places to cut spending, and, try to shrink the deficit.
okay.
And Musk dubbed this whole effort DOGE. He framed it as the Department of Government Efficiency.
DOGE. Okay, so that was Musk's baby, supposedly to make things run smoother. How did that actually play out inside the government machinery?
Well, under this DOGE banner, Musk put together a pretty small team, maybe 5 people reportedly.
Just five.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he assigned them tasks across different departments. Things like flagging people for termination, pulling funding from programs they decided weren't needed. And it was all happening incredibly quickly. Seems like speed was a major priority.
And right here, according to Surge from Anonymous, this is where they say the first major blunder happened, the thing that really set off alarm bells.
Okay.
Apparently, one of Musk's DOGE employees just walks into the OPM business office and plugs in an external router
Oh, boy.
to send out some DOG emails, supposedly. Now, some people might think, okay, a router, what's the harm? But can you explain why that's immediately like a five-alarm fire from a security perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Plugging an unauthorized external router into a secure network, especially one like OPM's, which holds incredibly sensitive data, it's basically like propping open the main vault door and disabling all the security cameras on your way out.
Right.
It completely bypasses all the carefully constructed internal network security. It creates an instant, unchecked backdoor straight into systems that should be locked down tight. It's Security 101. Don't ever do this.
Wow.
And what's interesting is how quickly it raised red flags. These emails, they look like they were coming from opm.gov, right?
Hmm.
Telling federal employees they had just 1 week to reply and justify their work over the past month. But that apparently the emails just kind of vanished after that week.
Hmm.
Or people trying to reply to the HR@opm.gov address found the emails bounced back, at least initially. Very suspicious.
So you've got this technical mess with the router, plus these weird emails acting strangely. That created an opening, didn't it? And this is where Anonymous steps in. They're known for this kind of digital activism, right? What was it that specifically grabbed their attention? And how did they even start poking around OPM systems?
That's a really good point. Serge explained that once those emails started circulating and the weird tech issues popped up, Anonymous started digging. And what they found, through a security expert they worked with named Jay, well, he looked into OPM's public domain name system servers, the DNS.
Okay, DNS, that's like the internet's phone book.
Pretty much. It translates website names into the numerical IP addresses computers use. What Jay found was evidence that OPM's internal servers, the ones physically on their premises, were being shifted to the cloud.
Migrating to the cloud, okay, that happens.
It does, but not like this. The way it was done apparently exposed incredibly sensitive internal details. We're talking public visibility of control panels for their infrastructure, maybe even individual employee workstations, other admin level stuff, things that should never ever be accessible from the outside world.
Whoa.
It's like leaving the master keys to your entire building, plus maybe some employee personnel files just sitting on the front desk for anyone to grab.
That is staggering. So Serge is saying it wasn't just a little email glitch or a minor setup error. By plugging in those routers and then this messy cloud migration, they basically left a treasure trove of sensitive OPM data completely exposed.
Yeah.
Sturge described it as incredibly unsafe, unprofessional, just poorly done. A ridiculous move by Elon Musk was the, quote, enabled by Trump, according to them. So what happened after Anonymous and Jay found these vulnerabilities?
Well, Jay noticed later that a lot of these exposed admin portals, the ones that never should have been public in the first place, they just stopped responding. They were quickly pulled back from public view, redacted from public records. Same with the HR at opm.gov email servers.
Trying to cover their tracks.
It certainly looks like a hurried attempt to clean up the mess. That, combined with the initial email problems, it points towards a really reckless, maybe even deliberate operation.
Okay, connect the dots here. Why the rush to the cloud in such a sloppy way?
Well, think about it. Moving data hastily to cloud servers you control.
Yeah.
It can make it a lot easier to delete those servers later on, destroy evidence. Evidence that might otherwise be subject to, say, Freedom of Information Act requests, FOIA requests, or even subpoenas down the line. The original on-premise mail server security certificates also stopped working after the transfer, which explains why those initial emails bounced. Some were fixed later for HR at opm.gov, but not all. It all seems very convenient if you don't want records sticking around.
But it doesn't stop with just the tech side, does it? Sources inside the government talking to Wired revealed something potentially deeper.
Right.
The highest levels of OPM are now apparently staffed by people with direct ties to Musk and the tech industry. People like Amanda Scales, who used to be at Musk's XAI. Her email was even on a memo asking staff to basically snitch on coworkers involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion work.
Wow.
And Ricardo Biasini, Steve Davis, both from Musk's Boring Company, reportedly holding top jobs at OPM now, too. This feels like more than just bringing in new managers. Is this about maybe strategically placing people to dismantle oversight, to give a specific agenda free rein?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What's the intent behind these hires? And Serge noted something interesting here, too. They said Elon's DOGE people are switching these employees' job titles quite frequently.
Why would they do that?
Serge assumes it's to kind of fly under the radar. Avoid detection, avoid accountability for what they're actually doing inside the government. This is where Anonymous's ongoing work is so vital. They're actively tracking these changes. They see when these job titles get shuffled around within federal agencies, like in real time.
So they're watching the watchers, essentially.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It shows how dedicated groups like Anonymous are to keeping tabs on these internal shifts, trying to piece together the bigger picture.
So even though Musk says he's not directly involved with DOGE anymore or the government, his former team members are now running things in key federal offices. Serge planned bluntly. Nothing's really changed. His employees, he fired federal employees, and he used his employees in their place. So technically, he never went anywhere. And they're saying the data is still not properly secured, still potentially vulnerable.
Which brings us back to the core risk.
Right. What does this actually mean for the millions of federal employees whose data OPM holds? What kind of information are we talking about here, and what happens if it gets out?
It's incredibly serious. OPM has everything. Background check details, SF-86 forms for security clearances, which are intensely personal. Employment histories, medical records, financial data, family information.
Everything.
Pretty much everything needed to build a complete profile of a federal worker. If that data is exposed, the risks are huge. You've got identity theft, sure, targeted phishing scams, but potentially far worse.
Like what?
Think about foreign espionage, blackmail. Federal employees, especially those with clearances, become prime targets if their sensitive personal information falls into the wrong hands. It could compromise national security.
It's chilling.
And this whole OPM situation, it's really a stark warning, isn't it? As governments move more and more towards these big centralized digital systems, the potential weak points just multiply.
Yeah.
It shows how even something that sounds good, like an efficiency drive, can actually become a disaster for data security if you cut corners, ignore protocols, and sideline independent oversight. The stakes for employee privacy are just incredibly high.
Okay, so this chaos is brewing inside OPM. What was the reaction from other parts of the government, particularly to that first weird OPM email asking everyone to justify their jobs?
Oh, the pushback was almost immediate and came from all corners. By February 23rd, 2025, which was pretty quick, leaders at the Pentagon, the FBI, State Department, Homeland Security, Department of Energy, they all told their staff not to reply to that email.
Really? Across the board.
Yeah. Kash Patel at the FBI told staff to pause any responses. Darren Selmick, acting Undersecretary of Defense, echoed that. R.D. Alley's at DHS, too. State and Justice issued similar warnings. They all cited the highly sensitive nature of their work, saying basically, stand down, no reporting needed right now. Even HHS, Health and Human Services, they initially said comply, but then reversed course.
So his own administration's top people, his appointees, were basically saying no way to this OPM directive.
Pretty much, yeah, widespread resistance.
But despite all that pushback, Trump himself publicly backed the email, didn't he? Called it pretty ingenious, denied any communication disconnect.
He did.
And even threatened people, saying anyone not responding was semi-fired or fired. And then Musk jumps on X, formerly Twitter,
Of course.
saying it was extremely troubling that some parts of government think this is too much. Caps and exclamation points. What is wrong with them? And then he posts this SpongeBob meme mocking federal workers.
Yeah. Not exactly a textbook case in crisis communication or respecting your workforce. It's hard to imagine handling it much worse, really.
Yeah. It really soured the whole thing publicly, too, right? It wasn't just agency heads.
No, definitely not. You had Republican senators, Lisa Murkowski, John Curtis, publicly criticizing Musk's approach. Murkowski urged a dose of compassion, Curtis called the email. Absurd. One Defense Department official was quoted calling it the silliest thing I've seen in 40 years and said it completely usurps the chain of command.
So even politically aligned people were saying this was out of line.
Absolutely. The outcry came from various points on the political spectrum, which really highlights how dysfunctional and, frankly, disrespectful of established procedures the whole thing seemed to many people.
Okay, so summing up where we are. You had the external router fiasco, potentially exposed data, this questionable rush to the cloud, Musk's people moving into top OPM jobs and shuffling titles, and massive internal resistance ignored by the top. Where does that leave things now, and what's Anonymous and Surge doing currently?
Right, this is where Surge's updates are so critical. They confirmed that after Anonymous initially got involved and found the data exposure and the security gaps, they didn't just stop there. They continue to monitor the systems, as Surge put it, in real time.
Still watching.
Still watching. Tracking when Musk's appointees change their job titles, seeing it happen instantly. And this isn't just passive observation. It's having real-world consequences. Surge shared that there are now, get this, 15 lawsuits and a preliminary injunction that are directly tied to the data and evidence Anonymous has gathered through this whole process.
15 lawsuits, wow.
Yeah. So this is very much an active, ongoing situation. Anonymous seems committed to keeping the pressure on, shedding light on what's happening, and trying to ensure there's some accountability.
So let's try to pull this all together. What does this all mean when you step back? We've seen this incredibly fast, seemingly unsecured transfer of OPM data. We've seen the impact of DOGE and Musk's influence, which persists even if he says he stepped away. We saw huge pushback from inside the government itself. And then there's the absolutely crucial role of groups like Anonymous, driven by people like Surge, who are doing the monitoring and forcing accountability.
I think this whole deep dive really underscores a critical point for our digital age.
Yeah.
As government functions become more centralized and digitized, the potential points of failure just explode.
Right.
This story is a perfect example of how even something framed as positive, like efficiency, can seriously backfire and expose sensitive data if you ignore standard procedures, bypass checks and balances, and lack independent oversight. The risk to federal employees' privacy here is just immense.
It really raises that fundamental question, doesn't it? In this world where data is increasingly centralized and tech changes so fast, how do we guarantee accountability? How do we protect sensitive information, especially when powerful figures seem to operate with, well, maybe not enough checks on their power and when it takes outside groups to find the problem?
Exactly. That's the uncomfortable question this leaves us with.
And maybe this deep dive suggests something else, too. That sometimes the best safety nets aren't just lines of code or official policies. Sometimes they're the relentless curiosity and, frankly, the vigilance of regular people and groups who are determined to shine a light into dark corners.
That's a powerful thought.
What does that tell us about the future of transparency and oversight, especially as government becomes ever more digital? That's definitely something for all of us to think about.